Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to be codifying my list of about 5,000 things which I've learnt during my sales career down to 7, and committing the first deadly sin in sales, which I haven't listened to who you are and what your experiences are, and trying to make them relevant to you. But so just to kind of set the tone, I'm assuming that the majority of the audience, you come from what I call kind of the evangelical startup, the educational-based sales. You're disruptors, rather than an based organisation, does something quicker, cheaper, better, and so on and so forth. And if you're at the beginning of your sales career or going down that journey, great. It's the most academically challenging sales environment to be in, because you're selling to people who don't know what you're talking about. They certainly have no budget for it, and you need to inspire them to take action. The negative, of course, is once you've worked for one of those, you'll never go to kind of a 150% growth kind of company, because it's just boring order taking. Here we go. So my first in this environment is I hate the word qualified opportunity. Qualification is a deterministic outcome. In other words, you as a salesperson are trying to work out, how do I get this organisation into my pipeline so I have a pipeline that's 4x my quota, and then my sales manager's happy. I much prefer a disqualification agenda. What are the reasons why I shouldn't be wasting my time with you as a prospect? I remember going to one of my sales managers who was brutal, boasting about the fact that I'd got double the close rate of everybody else. It was 20% rather than 10% from sales qualified lead to close. And he said, that's great, there's 200 selling days in a year. What you're telling me is for 40 of those, you're working for me, and 160 of those, you're lining the competitor's pocket. How about you come back when the majority of your time is actually earning money for me? And that was a lesson right there in that moment. So the whole disqualification, I felt quite really bad actually walking out of their office. But that whole disqualification agenda can be very subtle. It's, you might have some hard-coded things. You might have some soft-coded things. You might want to take some risks. You might want to spend some time working it through. But half the time, if you're doing it properly, you can get the prospect to sell to you why you should spend some time with them. Okay. Number 2, I have been, actually, just a last point on that. It takes 2 times longer to lose a deal than it does to win one. So my rule with my teams when I was doing new business is we had, my last company was 63 days was the average sales cycle from open to close. Once you got past 63 days, you weren't allowed to sell anymore. You found out the price they were willing to buy it. Take the logo. If you're in a startup, logos are as important as revenue to some extent. Stop wasting your time. Half of them won't buy, half of them will. Just take the money and run. Okay, on to the next one. So that's kind of your penance for not doing a good job in the first place. I've used, just in sales systems, Medic, Spin, Miller, Hyman, Blue Sheets, Gold Sheets. I've done Infomentis at Oracle. I've done numerous different types of sales methodologies. Those ones I don't like. The one that stood me in great stead for the last 20 odd years is Sandler. It's kind of like sheet music for sales. It doesn't constrict you. If I gave you the same piece of sheet music and you're all musicians, it would sound different from all of you, and that's kind of the freedom that Sandler gives. Whether that's qualify, close, present, so in other words, don't commit resources until you know what the close plan is. People talk about mutual action plans, tip tricks, and so on and so forth, or triptychs. Whether it's the buyer pendulum, which again is, I'm happy to talk about all of these when we're socialising, if you want them brought out. I'm a continuous learner. I was absolutely thoroughly pissed off about 4 months ago when I got introduced to proactive selling by Skip Miller. I thought I knew everything about sales, and then had a smack in the face. There were 2 things which I just completely missed through my selling career. Some of them were kind of like unconsciously competent in, but for those it would be below the line and above the line selling. He does a great book. His second book in the series is Selling Above the Line. Phenomenal. It's groundbreaking and really changed my approach to kind of the whole method of accelerating deals. He talks about 2 times X. We're the people who slow down sales cycles, not customers, and so on. I think the one that struck me for that is somebody who's above the line, who has an agenda to fix something, doesn't say to the person who's reporting to him to go and find a solution, can you spend 9 months in the sales cycle and a year implementing something? He wants it fixed today, and we kind of forget that. And if you're not talking to above the line, that's why your deals are going slowly. Thinking about SaaS, I've done it for 20 odd years, so it's kind of absolutely internalized for me. But if you're new to that environment, you've been selling other things, if you sell per user, discounting the user is just an absolute no-no. Think creatively about adding in another product for a short period of time, giving them 38 months for the price of 36. These things don't hammer the revenue that you get from a customer in future renewals. And so as new business reps, you might be thinking about, actually, it's just about my comp plan and how much revenue I can get in. But actually, if you're retaining those clients and you've got a kind of a territory plus type plan, protecting the per user per month price is absolutely key. And as you go into leadership positions, always get into that habit early in your career. When I was doing new business, because I'm arrogant, I'd never take a meeting within 2 weeks, and I'd only ever meet between the hours of 10 and 3. Think about the psychology of that. I'm exclusive, I'm busy, I'm unavailable, you can't see me for 2 weeks. If somebody's willing to wait, chances are they're interested in what you've got to buy. 2 is, everybody sets their day up about the meeting before lunch and the one after lunch. You always get a meeting room, you typically get a projector. If you've ever gone first thing in the morning, last thing at the night, the number of times you're in a cafeteria or something. Now, I've closed a $3 million deal with Rolls-Royce in a cafeteria. There's always an exception, but the rule is, 1 minute left. Absolutely in the zone. Right, I'll move on. You can only sell the value you create. Stay in the value creation area. If you don't understand something enough to attach a value to it, keep asking questions. You can waste 4 or 5 days at the beginning of the sales cycle tripling the value that you can attach to your solution. If it's part of a bigger project, fantastic. You might be the key that unlocks that for them. So don't skip past the value step. Be truly authentic. So what I mean by that is, if you're in the education kind of sales space, if you can't be a keynote speaker as a sales rep, you don't know enough about your industry, subject, your customers, your products, your solutions, and the values you provide. Unless you're at that level, you can't go and sit with a CEO and talk about business. You are the CEO of your business. You need to be peer leveling with them. My bonus round, my last 2 things was learn storytelling. Great story earlier. It brings people into the fold of things which are new and innovative. The rugby analogy kind of works there. And then the final one is people give you a quota because they think that's what's humanly possible on your own. I always used to start the year thinking, how can I do 4 times my quota? And the answer is always, you've got an ecosystem, you've got to use it. If it's partners, if it's colleagues in the office, if it's your boss, get them doing meetings for you. Send everybody out. Get your lead gen people taking the deal a lot further through the sales cycle. If you can't multiply the resources that are around you, you're never going to smash your number. That's the quickest 7 minutes in the world.